Here we are, guys. Welcome back to the channel here. We're going to be going through the round 15 team list, and we're going to start by obviously mentioning Mental Health Week for the men there, and a nice little photo here for the Old Boys Day at the Knights with looking for a cure for cancer there for those boys. So a real nice one there. But in our first one here for round 15, we've got the Broncos and the Bunnies. So Tesi Niu comes back into the number one role, which is a blast from the past. Who is still holding him? Comment in right now if you're still holding Tesi. With the Sarko he's just been completely moved on at the moment after that absolute stinker of a game, and fair enough. Tyson Gamble keeps his spot, so some more money making to be made there. Carmichael Hunt keeps the 6th role, with Kelly looking to be out for another week or two. So just keep that in mind if you've got Kelly, that he might be worth holding just at that really cheap price, and especially with the fact that he's got some cash to make after a couple of 40s and a 60 odd. So I'd be holding on to him personally if I have Kelly. In terms of the other guys there, Lodge's been scoring well, but I wouldn't be picking him up at this stage. Majority of these guys, I think, for you to bring them in, they have to be an out-and-out gun, I think. So there's really no one in here at the moment that I'd be looking to pick up. And guys I'd be looking to trade is Flegler over the next few weeks. So you've probably got until round 17, I think, but that'd be a good time to get rid of him. Tavita Pengai, I think you just keep holding for the rest of the year. Turpin, if you have him, he could be moving on round 17, but he's actually scoring pretty well, to be fair. So other than that, you've got Rabadi and Palaszczuk on the bench there, and Jordan Ricky still in the 19 jersey. Look at the sneaky Dale Copley there in the 21. So that's that. In the Bunny side of things, all the big dogs are back. So Gags is back, Murray's back, Arrow, Cook as well. So Benji drops out of the 17 altogether, which is interesting. He must have a slight injury, or I'm not exactly sure what's happening on that one. Colin Matangi is an interesting one if you had picked him up, in the last week or two, especially in round 14 there. He's got a couple of decent scores from you there, but I don't think he's going to be a keeper, which is annoying. Campbell Graham, I'd be just watching over the next few weeks and see if he gets back to keeper level scores in the centres, but there's also so many really strong players in that centre position at the moment, and Adam Reynolds is scoring pretty well, so half an option if you really like him. If you like watching him play, then maybe you could pick him up, but other than that, I'd be leaving it steady. The Cowboys up against the Sharkies there, so not too much changing on the Cowboys side of things. Obviously didn't score as well in a team that got smashed, so I'll be very interested to see how he goes this week and next before potentially picking him up in 17 if we think he's going to be a solid cash cow. So that's that there. In terms of our forwards, Lolo, we're just going to keep watching until he starts to score well, I think would be the smartest option with that, but not too many changes team list wise. And in the Sharks, I think Raymond's still a great buy. Ronaldo's scoring really well, but again, winger's going to be up and down, especially in a team that's not really doing super well. Matty Moylan doing okay. Obviously, last week was a bit of a downer after having a bunch of good weeks there for Matty. And Sean Johnson is a great buy. I think definitely, guys, if you're interested in him or need a half, then Johnson's your man. In terms of the forwards, we see Talakai move back into the squad, and for me, I think you need to see him play that role for a bunch of weeks, just to allow his price to come down, but also see if he's going to get back to that form of last year, because he was electric in that edge role last year when they had injuries, or Nakora or Graham was out. He played some extended big games there in that position. So for me, I'd be waiting and see. He has been playing sort of 50 odd minutes and only getting in the 20s, so I think he needs to step up his game for him to be someone that we have an interest in bringing into our squad. So that's that there with that game. Moving on to Panthers and Roosters, and what you see here is Burton move back to the 4 role, Luai Cleary, everyone comes back. So if you hold on strong with those guys, then that's awesome. You also see a couple of changes in the interchange section. So Lane moves to 18, which he basically played there anyway last week. Tyrone May moves out of the squad, and they're keeping Kenny in the 14 role. And last week he played a bit of a running role through the middle, which was interesting. So Sorensen, Eisenhuth, and Isaac Tago, after a decent game, keeps his spot. So Liam Martin comes into 11 role with Kikau being out, but that doesn't change too much for anyone, I don't think. And if you hold on to Capewell, he gets his spot back, which is good. So that's that there. If we're looking at the Roosters side of things, Verrills comes back onto the bench in the 14 role, without Adam Kieran keeping his 9 role. So let's keep an eye on that one, guys, because if Kieran happens to, if they manage to keep him on the field for a long period of time, like what happened last week, he would have played the full game. He had to come off for a short period of time there. If he played the full game, his kicking out of dummy half was really good, and he scored pretty well. So he's someone that you can think about potentially bring into your squad, but there's also a chance and a worry that Verrills will come into that 9 role over the next few weeks as he gets back to full health. But they also might just use him as a bit of a spark off the bench, going forward. Tupanua, someone to think about, guys, as possibly being ready to trade out, just for the fact that you're going to be losing a fair bit of cash on him. But he does play 17, and those kind of players are very, very hard to come by. Taukeaho comes back. Hargraves played the full 80, and I don't expect him to do it again this week. They do have some decent forwards on the bench in terms of, decent in terms of they're only going to play like 30 minutes or so. And in this case, will that mean Hargraves plays big minutes again? I doubt he goes 280 minutes in a row. I feel like that, as I said, they cycle through the minutes sometimes with the Roosters guys. Tedesco moves back to 1, Manu goes back to 4. So yeah, I wouldn't expect as good a score from Manu there. If you hold on to Tedesco, happy days there. Moving on to the next one, Knights Warriors. So a few ins, which is good. So Ponga to 1, Pearce to 7, which means Watson will come back into the 14 utility role and play a much better, play much better in that position. Also means they should play a lot better with Ponga and Pearce back, and I think Watson's going to be a really good link in between those two guys, getting a lot of quick play the balls through the middle and letting these guys do their thing on the outside. It's obviously a bit sad that they lose Best for 6 to 8 weeks with his syndesmosis, which is not fun, but yeah, Dom Young keeps his spot on the wing, Kurt Mann in the centres. The rest of the guys, it's a much stronger team. Interesting to see Clemmer on the bench though, as a start, for someone that's, you can tell that he just hasn't been himself this year, has he? He scored pretty well in fantasy last year. Lost his origin spot obviously, but he was doing well and just hasn't done as well this year. All right, Warriors side, Reece Walsh moves back into the 1 role, which is great. I think you pick him up. I don't know what the talk is around him getting picked for Origin. So what, you think you're going to pick Reece Walsh over Kalen Ponga? No chance. I think that's stupid. And they're not going to have him off the bench. I think that's also silly. You've got guys like Ben Hunt, Brimson, all these types of guys that are going to do a job off there. They're going to change the whole structure and pick an 18-year-old in Origin just for the sake of it. I think Ponga would be pretty appalled if he didn't get selected over Walsh, to be fair. Roger moves to the 5. If you've got him like myself, you just keep him until end of 17 and go from there. Cody Nikorima becomes a even more interesting option, I think. When O'Sullivan was playing, Nikorima scored really well. He has scored pretty well all year, to be fair. But he's obviously going to do a lot more of the general play kicking, which O'Sullivan did as well. So I don't think too much changes. I think Cody just needs to take more of a leadership role in the halves here, and that's when he runs the ball a bit better. He kicks the ball a bit more. He just plays better in general when he's in that role, I think. So he could be half an option, but there's so many halves to pick from, guys. So yeah, keep an eye on that one. I doubt Bailey Sirenen plays 80 minutes this week. Just think about that in this team, but the rest of the teams pretty much exactly the same. Moving on, we have the Dragons Raiders. So in this one here, we saw the defensive prowess of Dufty on the weekend. I keep giving him crap, but I feel like it's deserved. With so many people, loving everything he did, and completely fair. All the attack that he does is great, but there is that reason that he hasn't got a spot, and you can see that in fantasy. Like, he obviously misses a bunch of tackles and all this sort of stuff there, which gives him very much he's got a high ceiling but a very low floor. So the up and down there is why we don't pick these types of fullbacks. The rest of the team stays pretty much the same. They do have Lomax in the 21 role though, but the rest of the team stays the same there. Ford in the 13, Sims and Bird, and then you got Kerr off the bench this time. McCulloch scored well again. Hunt had a low game, but I imagine he'll improve against the Raiders. I'm expecting a fairly close game, but the way Dragons played on the weekend, it wasn't very strong at all, and Raiders had improved a fair bit. Okay, a bunch of people talk about Simonson. He has a couple of games of around 30 or 30 average kind of thing, and then he had his explosion game on the weekend. My worries with these guys, I spoke about Tomoko and Simonson, was their high scores were very much inflated against a very average side in the Broncos. So yes, they come up against the Dragons here, so 2 really easy games in a row, let's say. For these types of players. So just keep in mind that there's every chance he moves back to the wing, in any possible opportunity when one of the players come back, or they, if they stop playing well, then they could move Rapana back there or whatever. They could change that up. That's something to think about. Yes, he can make a bit of cash. He's already like 350k, which is becoming a little bit pricey. Yes, as I said, yes, he could make some cash. He could score well, but he also could score like Aikens and like that 30-odd average. And if he gets a 30-odd average price at 350, you're only making a little bit of money. So keep that in mind. Tomoko's an interesting one. If he can get a spot for the next bunch of weeks, then then he could be solid, but I don't think he keeps the spot for that long. Let me know what you guys think in terms of the Raiders' injuries and stuff like that, as to where they're at. Corey Harinara still is a great option, but that that random game that he has, especially that first few when he came back, and then that last game where he didn't run the ball as much, is a bit of a worry. So I still think he's a good option, but as I spoke about him in my analyzing my team, there is sometimes we pick these guys that are 500, 600k, and they've got that upside, and they have the odd good games, and then they have the 30 odd game like Corey has in him. So be careful about that if you're picking him up, as he may not be a keeper long term, and a lot of us don't have too many trades to just throw around like that. That's for sure. Storm Tigers. Storm, nothing really changes. All their big dogs played. No Pappenhausen for one more week, it looks like. So I think Hines is definitely a hold for another week. And if he goes back to the bench, you can move him on there. Smith, you can almost trade this week, I think. Munster Hughes. Hughes is a top gun. Everyone will want him at some stage. Him or DCE and Cleary as a combo. Brandon Smith, everyone's really talking him up. And fair enough, he's just on an absolute tear at the moment. But there's every chance he goes back to the scoring that he had at the start of the year, where everyone was like, "Oh, I wasted a pick having Smithy in my team." So just keep that in mind. Welsh is back if you held on to him, but I imagine most people traded him out. So other than that, Trent Leoro, I don't know how to say it, Loiro, is in the reserve. So I'm glad I tried doing that. Tigers, we lose Dewey. So the head knock was bad enough that he hasn't even been named, which is no good. But in terms of changes in their team, they got Roberts into the centres, and Ken Mamalo comes in for his debut, which is cool. Good on him, and good luck to him in that team. I thought he'd score more tries than he did. He played 108 games for 42 tries, I think, and he's got a couple of triples in there, which is interesting. The rest of the team, we've got Twal still there. Do you trade him out? You can over the next few weeks. I don't think he's going to be a keeper, so that's that. Leilua has the chance to go back to that status, but I just don't. I like him on the left more. Since he's moved to the right, he hasn't played as well. I don't know. That's just my thoughts. I like to see him out there with Brooks. I don't know why do you go Mbai, Leilua, and Dewey, like you're a really strong two-man combo? Why do you move them to the right? Why don't you play them on the left with Brooks? I don't know. That's just my thoughts. Stefano, you can keep until 17, I think, if you want. Let's move on. Eels and Dogs. The powerhouse Bulldogs. Look at them go. Not too much changes for them. Averillo becomes a really almost a must-have, and I've missed out on him completely. He's like 670k now, which is crazy. But he keeps, what's his 5-game average over 70? It's incredible. Luke Thompson, people ask me about. I still think he's a good option, but again, will he fall into that just below keeper status? He's nowhere near a Tohu Harris. Is he going to be a 50-point player, a 48-point player, a 55-point player? We don't know yet. So only time will tell. You can take that risk if you want, but he needs those big minutes. And will he get that? Based on their bench, you'd say he would, but that's that. In terms of the Eels, you got a debutant in Sean Russell coming in. Opacek's there. He's probably not a keeper. Gutherson shouldn't play Origin, and he's definitely a keeper in the wing fullbacks. He's been really solid and safe. And how good is his celebration on the weekend? Moses back to having a good score, and he took a bit of the shine off Brown, who had an okay score there. So they'll both get back to evens around that 50-odd, but against the Dogs, this should be a solid game for him. Joey Lussick, it looks like Mane will only be out for a couple of weeks. There's talks of him possibly being back for 16, but I think they'll just hold him off to 18. So in terms of Lussick, you've got 2 games left out of him, 15 and 16. Okay, so keep that in mind, and then you've got to trade him out. So is it worth picking him up now? I don't think so. If you were going to do it, it was last week, and you get a good score, and you get a few good rises out of him now that he's break-evens back down, because it was up at 47, so that's that there. Papali's been doing great. Keep him in that squad. Madison we're going to worry about. We need him to get back closer to 80 minutes, and they have some guys on the bench that, Hipgrave's a back rower, Niokore is going to play back row / front, but having Nathaniel Roach on there is an interesting one, so I think they're going to use him to back up Lussick. So that hopefully means Madison goes back to an 80-minute role. Papali or Madison, one of them would lose some minutes like they normally do, but hopefully it's not both. Surely you have at least one back rower that plays 80 minutes, especially when I have both in my side. So that's that, and then we'll move to the last game, guys. Titans and the Manly Sea Eagles, and Brimson isn't named again, so he's in the 21, so there's every chance he does come in and play, and usually that's what happens when these guys are named in the 21. But yeah, if he doesn't, you got Campbell for another week. Marzu looks like he's locked down his spot. So for someone that doesn't play 17, it's probably a little bit late now, I think. If you picked him up last few weeks, you've done well, but I think you can hold off now. Fogs is still going to be up and down. So, people are going to be like, oh, I'll trade him in quick, but you're chasing last week's points. You got 92, probably get 45 this week or 30 odd. So keep that in mind. Fodawaker, I think, is a great, he's playing incredible footy at the moment, but I don't think we can pick him up until 18 or 19, just with a couple of games he's going to miss and playing Origin and chance of injury and stuff like that. So keep him in mind for after Origin because he's been incredible. Fifita has been named. I think is he fighting a charge? I think someone was saying possibly. I'm not exactly sure. Tino scored well last game. Peachy's doing well in the 14 role, so I think happy for him to stay there. In terms of the Eagles, you got Trbojevic coming back. That's really all we need to talk about with this team. Carl Lawton still in the 12 jersey. No Schuster, which is sad. So not even in the 21. So, gee, we hope he's back for six. At least, I think maybe their call is that with the week off after this week that they'll rest him and just make sure he's back ready to go for 16. I suppose now that they're doing really well, there's no point of rushing him back if it's a bit of a calf, that kind of lingering injury like the hamstrings are. So annoying for our teams, but hopefully we can field a solid 17 and get him back ready for next week. But there you go, guys. That's the team list for the week and any relevant information there. Check that I didn't miss any. Yep, didn't miss any. But there you go. That's it. If you like this, please hit like. If you haven't subscribed yet, like I know half of my followers or my listeners and viewers haven't yet, please do so. I really appreciate that as we're building a lovely community. And we'll go from there. Hope you had fun. See you later.